Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to the spotlight you've all been waiting for. Red Power 2, pre-release 6 for Minecraft 1.4.4. That's right, it's finally here. Elaram's code was basically pretty brutalized by the 1.3.2 update, and it required a huge amount of work just for her to tread water and get the mod updated to the point where it could actually work on 1.3.2. There was a significant amount of bugs, and if you watched my multiplayer series where we play on the Forgecraft server, you saw a lot of those bugs firsthand in the earlier videos. However, she's now gotten it pretty much cleaned up and added a bunch of new features for us so that your wait was not in vain. So I have to jump right into the spotlight because there are so many new features and changes and tweaks and just a ton of cool stuff that came out in 1.4.4. In fact, this spotlight might even wind up being a two-parter depending on if I can get everything covered at once. So without further ado, let's start messing around with Red Power 2 pre-release 6. So one of the first things I want to cover is the sickle. You guys remember this awesome little tool? You can left click to harvest just a bunch of the tall grass all at once. Not a big deal. Nice and easy to do. However, it got an upgrade in this version where it now works on leaves. Check that out. So if you've ever needed to quickly clear out some leaves from around a tree, the sickle will do it for you. Makes it a lot faster to prune your trees and get the leaves off them. You know, I'm one of those people who has kind of a pet peeve whenever I knock down, you know, some stuff. I want to clear the trees and the leaves away and maybe quickly get at the saplings. Awesome way to do it using the sickle. So that is an upgrade that is pretty awesome. Next up is an add-on to the project table, which is pretty cool. Definitely one of my favorite parts of this mod. As you guys should know, you can place a project table you can use to create a recipe in the top slot, and whenever you pull the items out of the right slot, it'll pull the items out of the bottom here to get the components of the recipe that you're making. So simply implement your recipe here, and you'll get this cool stuff coming out. Awesome. However, if you want, you can insert a blank plan into your project table. Now, a blank plan is created with a piece of paper and some indigo dye. Indigo dye, of course, comes from the indigo flowers that are added by Red Power 2. Indigo dye combined with paper gives you your blank plan. What you can do is you can put your recipe in the project table and write that recipe to the plan. Boom. Once that's been completed, anytime you place this plan in your project table, you can see that it gives you the recipe as kind of ghost blocks, and you can still pull the items out from over here. So no longer do you have to keep switching your recipes around. This is a great way to do things. You can also see the tooltip on the piston plan. It tells you the item it makes is the top option there, and the components that are required in the bottom. Now, the other neat part about this is when you don't have a component, it kind of highlights it in red. So it's really quick and easy to see what you're missing if you can't make the item. So a really awesome way to make things going forward with project tables. And next up, for those of you who like some fancy decorating, we've got some new types of basalt bricks. You can get yourself the chiseled basalt brick structure, and you can get the basalt paver, and these guys just look pretty nice in the world. So those are some of the simple and basic changes that have gone into this version of Red Power. Now let's get on to some of the more complex changes and some of the new items that are available. One of the new complex changes is to the sorting machine. So why don't I build a sorting machine setup real quick and come right back to show you how this works. So most of the changes to the sorting machine relate to when the sorting machine is placed next to a chest instead of being in line to a bunch of tubes running directly into it. You can see I've got basically a blue, green, and red setup down here, and I've set it up so that this chiseled basalt brick will go down the green path, cobblestone down the red path, and wooden planks down the blue path here. So let's go ahead and check out what some of the new modes are. First off, you'll see that there's a new button here that you shouldn't have been familiar with in the past. Might have seen it in my multiplayer series. And then there's a couple new sorting modes that she's added. One called this one, or that looks like this one, and one that looks like that one. And I'll go over what each of these guys do right now. First off, I'm going to set this mode, as you might be familiar with, to this mode, which requires fulfilling the line each time the thing passes by. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to put a bunch of these items in here, and we'll see how this works, okay? So what happens is every time this block receives a redstone signal, it's going to forcibly fulfill this line, and once it does, it's going to move on to the next, and then on to the next. Let's check it out, shall we? So it pulled out that guy, and you can see the current highlighted block is on the cobble. Pulls out the cobble next. The current highlighted block is the wooden planks, and the next block is the wooden planks, and then it moves on to the chiseled brick again. So every time it receives a redstone signal, it's going to go ahead and pull one of those items out. Now the reason it's pulling one of those items out is because that's what I told it to pull out, one item at a time. If I pull out maybe like 30 of these and throw them in here, it'll now pull 31 chiseled bricks out. So you can see it pulled out a cluster of those things, but it's still going to only pull out one stone and one wood. And this is the standard functionality that you guys should be pretty well familiar with at this point if you've played with sorting machines much and done a lot with them. So now that you have a quick refresh of how those work, why don't I show you the next modes that are available. First off, you can click this button and put it in the circular mode, and what this will do is it'll automatically pull without requiring a redstone signal. Let's try it out. Boom. Now it's going to automatically pull. No redstone signals required. It'll automatically empty the adjacent inventory and keep doing its thing, sorting it as it goes along. Pretty awesome. I'm going to turn this guy off for a moment and then move on to the next mode that's new. This guy is what I like to call stack size doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter what the stack size is in here. It's going to ignore how many items we placed in here. It's always going to pull out up to a stack of whatever item we've given it. So right now I've told it to pull out chiseled basalt brick. When it receives a redstone signal, it'll pull out a stack of it, and it's going to also pull out a stack of cobblestone or oak wooden planks. So you can see right now it's on the cobblestone mode. It's going to keep pulling out a stack of cobblestone at a time. So even though there's only one in there, it'll keep pulling out a stack. And if you combine these two modes, it's a quick way to make what I usually make, which is a combination filter sorting machine. It'll just quickly empty that chest out. It'll pull entire stacks out at a time and work pretty much beautifully for automatically sorting from an adjacent chest. So a great way to sort your system. Now the next mode here, after that one, is this guy, which is pretty much the exact same mode as the previous one, where stack size doesn't matter. However, it adds the option for an alternate route. So I'm going to go ahead and make, basically a white path here. We'll set up a nice little iron chest with a white paintbrush. And what will happen is anything that it doesn't know what to do with will go down the white path. So pretty much in the past, right, without this setting on, so let's turn it to this way again. We'll paint this guy for now. And sometimes in the version that I have, you have to force a block update, but that should be fixed by the time you guys get that version. When I activate this mode and let it pull out, what it'll do is it'll skip any items in the chest that it doesn't know what to do with. So in this mode, it won't pull out items it doesn't know what to do with. However, in this mode it will, and it'll assign them whatever color I told it to. So in this mode it'll pull out everything from the chest, regardless of whether or not it's entered into the inventory settings here. Now there's one more mode I want to show you guys. It's again on this button, but it's actually this mode, and what this does is actually pretty neat. I've gone ahead and set the sorting machine in the mode where every time you send a redstone signal, it's going to pull out one of each item. So instead of a redstone signal being like, one pulse equals one item, one pulse equals the next item, and one pulse equals the final item, in this mode, it's going to equal one pulse yields one line of items. And you can see it going down the path there. Pretty cool. Now, every time I click this button, it's going to keep doing it. And if I click the button faster than it can handle, so for example, if I put a timer on there, and I give this guy just a little bit faster than the sorting machine can handle, let's say like this, maybe we'll set it to, every half a second, go ahead and emit a tick. You can see it went through 4 times. It's going to store those ticks inside the sorting machine, and it's going to pull out 4 sets of items. Beautiful, isn't it? Awesome. Now, if it's unable to access a particular type of item, say for example cobblestone, okay, and we give it some ticks, it's going to go ahead and pull out the green item, and it's going to wait until it gets the cobblestone, and it's not going to pull out the wood until it gets fulfilled with the cobblestone in this column. So by doing that, it'll pull out the cobblestone and then the wood. So a lot of combinations can be made here. I think there's almost 21 different combinations available between the 2 buttons that are available now on this machine. So the sorting machine, massive upgrade, got a ton of new features, and is extremely powerful. Next up, we've got a pretty interesting block called the charging bench. You can see the recipe here. What this does is it'll charge your tools for you. So I'm placing down the charging bench, and it's going to receive some power. And when it's fully lit up, it looks pretty neat. And I'm going to open up the interface here. You can see it's building up a charge inside. So it does store a good amount of power in its internal block here. By placing a slightly drained sonic screwdriver in the interface, it'll start charging it up for you, nice and quickly. It's a nice, quick, and easy way to charge up your tools. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure Elram would not be adding an entire block to the game to charge tools when only one tool exists. So I'm going to go ahead and wager that we're going to see some new tools in the future. The next item I'd like to show you guys is something I'm very interested and excited to show you. It's the first item in a module called Red Power Compatibility. It's one of the first items that's a cross-mod compatible item. It is the Blue Electric engine. This guy is pretty cool. You simply get a blue electric motor and some brass gears, which are stone gears, an item from Buildcraft, surrounded by brass like that. Now this is a Buildcraft engine that I just placed incorrectly. Let's try that again. And the Buildcraft engine will get a little bit of a blue glow here when it's fully charged, ready to run. Pretty cool. And at this point we can start running some Buildcraft machines off of this engine. Let's find a machine to run, shall we? How about a quarry? Looks awesome. And just like all other Buildcraft machines and engines, simply apply a redstone signal to the engine and it'll start running. Now it'll drain some of your Buildcraft or your Red Power 2 power, and it does drain pretty quickly. How much energy does this output? It's actually variable. It'll kind of detect what the machine needs and adjust itself accordingly. It has a capacity of outputting up to 32 Minecraft joules per tick, but that does drain a lot of power if it gets that high, so keep that in mind. Simply activate it and it gets this awesome animation style, and you can see the robot here starting to do its thing. Now the engine does need to heat up a little bit, so let's give this guy some time to really get running. There he goes. He's spinning up, and he's going to start producing more and more power for our quarry. It's really heating up now, doing a nice job. And don't worry, he's not going to explode or anything like that. It's a perfectly safe engine. Just make sure you supply a good amount of power. Now look how quickly your battery box is draining here to feed all the power that this engine is using directly into this thing. So it does use a good amount of power. Keep that in mind. You're going to really need to ramp up your red power power production if you want to be able to output a good amount of Minecraft joules using the Buildcraft engine. So this thing is pretty epic. I really like the way it looks when it's running. It just has such an awesome Red Power Buildcraft combination feel to it. So you can see the robot here getting about ready to finish up the quarry, and then the quarry is going to start running and do its thing. So cool. I love it. Nice. But look how quickly we started to drain our battery box. So again, keep in mind, going to need a good amount of power going on here. So you're probably saying at this point, wow, Dyer, I guess I'm going to need a lot of solar panels to charge up that engine down there, and possibly some of the other things going on in Mud Power that are coming up. Is there a new way to generate power? And to that I say, yes, there absolutely is. We've got ourselves the kinetic generator. Now this guy is pretty slick. Just need a blue electric motor, some brass, and some blue alloy, and you're good to go. Simply place that down in the world, like so. From that point, you can get yourself one of two items. First off, you can get a wooden wind turbine. This guy is created with some wooden sails and some iron slab strips. Now you know how to make slab strips, I hope. But the wooden sails, you might need to know, require some stick and wood and then some canvas. Now the canvas is just a bunch of string all the way around a stick. Now the thing to note here is you're going to need quite a lot of string. Like look how much string you need here. Like you get one canvas for 8 string, and you can use the canvas to make bags, which I'll get into in just a moment. But the wooden sail, you need 6 canvas per sail, and you're going to need 6 sail per wind turbine. So you're going to need a lot of string. Good thing there's flax and you know the wool card and all that stuff to get yourself a bunch of stuff. So simply take your wooden wind turbine and place it in here, and boom, you've got like this awesome wooden sail thing going on. Pretty slick. It'll start to spin up in just a moment, and you'll get to see it spin here. Now, another thing you want to pay attention to is this meter here, which is kind of your wind meter. It'll tell you how much wind is nearby, and pretty much give you an indication of how much power it's generating. Now, the vertical windmill, which you can see here, has the ability to create about 20 times as much power as a solar generator. Now, of course, it will eventually break this wooden wind turbine. It'll take damage over time and break, and you'll have to replace it. So keep that that in mind. But a huge way to get power in Red Power 2. Let's give this a moment to start spinning up. And there we go. It looks like the windmill has started to spin. I just need to break in its bearings a little bit. It's also going to check around for any nearby obstacles, so make sure that there's no blocks nearby that are interfering with the wind. It will diminish the output of power here. The other thing you should note is that this will spin a little bit faster if it's storming out, so we can go ahead and check that out now. Notice that as soon as I turned on the rain, it started to spin a good bit faster than it was a moment ago. Pretty slick. And here on my battery box interface, you can see it's already produced quite a bit of power, and it's charging much quicker than previously with just a solar panel. So it is a much faster design. Now another option, for those of you who just like things that look a little different, or maybe even a little bit cheaper option, you've got the wooden windmill here. This guy just has 4 sails and an iron slab in the middle, so a little bit cheaper than your wooden sail back there. That's the vertical kind. This is the horizontal one, but of course with the cheaper recipe comes a slightly less efficient wind turbine. You're going to wind up pretty much only getting about 10 times as much power than you would from a solar panel when you use this guy. So simply face your same block, the wind turbine here, facing out, and go ahead and place your wooden windmill in the slot, and it should show up. And again, it has to break in the bearings before it starts spinning, so we have to give it just a few minutes here to get going. But you can see it's a pretty slick looking device. Oh yeah, so cool looking. And it spins and gets rolling. And there we go. You can see this windmill starting to spin. Again, it has to break in the bearings, so just give it a little bit of time. It starts off slowly, and then we'll pick up speed. You can see the other one in the background picking up speed pretty good, and it's doing a real nice job of spinning and producing power for us. So yeah, these windmills are awesome looking. I can't think of any other mod that adds a vertical windmill like this. It's really pretty slick. And this windmill over here just looks great, and the red and white effects are cool. And in future patches, you'll be able to color your sails if you want. So if you're interested in having different colored sails, that'll be an option down the line. Alright guys, now let's start looking at some new types of wires that LRM added. You can see I kicked up the rain here for my windmill. It's spinning pretty quick, and it's producing a good amount of power. Look at this massive amount of power flowing through this line. I hope you know what those numbers mean, because I still don't understand them. LRM's explained it to me like half a dozen times, and boy am I lost. Basically, voltage is the potential energy of the wire, and this wire is a 100-volt wire. So basically, your best bet is for it to be at 100 volts. It's pretty close to that right now. And amperage is the power flowing through the wire. So basically, your wattage is your volts and your amps multiplied together. And the voltmeter now tells you that automatically, so that's a pretty nice add-on and change. Now, basically, what you've got here is a lot of power flowing through here, but not that much. We're only at about half efficiency on our wind turbine. However, we're getting to the point in Red Power where we're actually creating a lot of energy. And if you had maybe 2 or 3 different wind turbines hooked up, you might have more energy than you could realistically push through this simple little wire, the blue alloy wire. And for that reason, we were given a 10 kV wire. This is your upgraded wire. Now you can see this stuff is pretty easy to make. For now, you just have to add a piece of wool to your blue alloy wire. So that's a pretty quick and easy recipe. I'm pretty sure that's a temporary recipe, but don't take my word for it. Now let's get this rain off and talk about how to use this stuff. Basically, you cannot connect this wire to anything that you're familiar with thus far. So your wind generators, your battery boxes, your sorting machines, none of this stuff can you connect up to this wire. So if I were to connect a bunch of this stuff down here, you'll see that this wire just won't connect to it. Let's see what happens when I try and run the wire down. See how it's not connecting? Not going to happen. Normal wire, of course, does connect, and it's pretty visually apparent the difference when you run your normal wire. Now, obviously, normal wire and this 10 kilovolt wire is not going to connect up together either. For the transition, you're going to have to make yourself a transformer. A voltage transformer requires some copper, some wood, and a piece of nickelite in the middle. This guy is pretty slick. He basically allows you to transform your voltage from the lower tier to, this is actually just medium tier. There's going to be a higher one coming in the future. You can see it's pretty slick looking, and you can connect your power lines on whatever side you want. So you can see here, there we go. Pretty cool. So now that we've got this voltage transformer, we should be able to connect our power directly into our machines. Now you also will need to have another voltage transformer on the other side. So let's say we wanted to connect these machines up to this power source way up here. I could run this guy all the way across and straight up here. And there we go. Now the voltage transformer can be placed on a wall, not a problem. So you can go ahead and take care of that and then connect your wiring like this. Pretty slick. So now we're able to generate power from the windmill, send it through the voltage transformer, which will be able to ramp that stuff up, and it'll be able to travel a distance a little bit better and then get ramped back down into your machines. Pretty cool. So now that I've activated the rain again, I'm going to take some readings here. You can see there's a pretty high voltage and amperage going through this wire right now. But if I check this wire, you'll see the amperage is much lower, but the voltage is much higher. So we've ramped up the voltage. This way there's less loss over the long distance. And you can see down here it's about the same. And then when we get down here, it's a lower volt and higher amperage again. And this guy is starting to fill up. So pretty slick. So the TLDR, for the non-electricians in the audience, like me, use higher voltage wires right here if you want to transfer a lot of power over a long distance with less energy loss. You're going to need a transformer on both ends to accomplish this. Now, one other thing to note about wires before we wrap up this segment is now your alloy wires are able to connect to things on what's called external corners. So in previous versions of the mod, they had to be connected like this, where they're directly attached to the block like that. And if you ran them up the side here, it wouldn't work. But this new version does allow this. So it's a pretty cool addition. It makes it a little bit easier for some slightly more compact designs. So of course, during that last segment, you guys got a little sneak peek of the canvas bag. This guy has just 8 pieces of canvas going all the way around like that. And again, the canvas is sticks and string, so you need a lot of string to get yourself a canvas bag. And you can also color code your canvas bags pretty easily by just doing this. Ta-da! Orange dye in the middle of that will give you an orange bag, and etc., etc. So multiple different colored bags you can have here. Looks really pretty neat. Pretty slick. Just right click with the bag in your hand and you get a nice little inventory about the size of a chest that you can store items in. It's awesome. Pretty slick. Of course you can't put the bag inside the bag. That would not work. If you try and take the bag off your hotbar while it's open, it'll simply just drop on the ground. So make sure not to do that. Alright guys, now there's another awesome block for those of you who love tube networks. This thing is the manager, and it is probably one of my favorite updates that's part of this mod. Let's check out the recipe for the manager. It's actually pretty complex. It does require a sorting machine and a regulator, 2 rather complex items to make, and some red doped wafers and some blue alloy ingots, and as you know, the sorting machine and regulator, all this other cool stuff. So, pretty expensive item. This is basically your Tech 3 sorting machine. So it's an upgrade to the sorting machine. It definitely has a very Tech 3 look to it. I don't know if you guys noticed, but LRAM definitely has some looks to her items, and this one definitely looks like Tech 3. So what do the managers do? Managers, simply put, manage the inventory they're attached to. So I've got this chest right here, along with these other chests over here. These machines will automatically pull items in and out of their adjacent chests and feed the other managers in the system with what's needed based on certain rules and priority and routing. So let's check it out right now. I'm going to make this guy my default input chest right here. So there's a couple settings right now that I'm going to go into. This button here has 2 modes. This mode will try to keep the number of items I specify in the interface in this chest. Okay, so if I put half a stack of cobblestone in here, it's going to try to keep half a stack of cobblestone, but no more than half a stack in this chest. Okay, it'll be happy when it gets that. This mode here will keep any number of the input items. So if I place 1 piece of cobblestone in here, it'll keep any amount of cobblestone. So I can put 20 stacks, or I can put nothing in, and it'll be just totally happy to have just any amount of cobble. Okay. The next thing is the priority number, and basically all you need to know about the priority number is the higher the priority, the more it's going to pull from the other ones in the system. So a higher priority manager will always pull items out of a lower priority manager to get itself satisfied. So right now I'm going to make this manager priority 0, and I'm going to tell it you're allowed to keep dirt and cobblestone in this chest. Okay, I can put any amount of cobblestone in here and dirt, and it'll be perfectly happy to keep it. Now if I try to throw some wooden planks in there, they're instantly going to be pulled out. Why is that? Because I said you're not allowed to have wood in this inventory. Where do they go? Well, they're backlogging the system because there's no other managers on the system that can accept wooden planks, and therefore they're kind of stuck as if you backlogged a filter or a transposer or something like that. So to make this a little bit easier to manage, I'm going to get myself a tube here. Let's get this guy, a restriction tube, and I'm just going to hook him up right here, like this. Now what's going to happen is we have somewhere for the wood to go. You can see it instantly got pulled out. So the managers, you have to tell the manager what items are allowed in the system. Now, of course, if I placed a piece of wooden oak plank in here, it's not going to pull out of this chest because there's no manager on this chest. But it will now allow wood to go inside here. Pretty cool. So no longer going to pull the wood out. If I don't want wood to be allowed in there, I can just take this out of the interface and boom, no more longer is it accepting wood. Now, for these other managers, I can tell them to keep a certain amount of items stocked or whatever I want. So for example, I'm going to put this guy in stocking mode and I'm going to tell him to keep, I don't know, half a stack of cobblestone, and let's also get ourselves just a little bit of wood. I'm going to just say like 16 pieces of wood. For whatever reason, I want to keep 32 cobble and 16 wood in this chest. Okay. Notice that nothing's happened yet. That's because the priority number on both of these are the same, priority 0. If I want this guy to pull, I need to up his priority. I want to make him priority 1, which means he's going to have a higher priority than the priority 0 manager, and it'll pull items out. So let's make that happen now. Boom. As soon as I do that, you can see cobblestone coming out 32 at a time, and then it starts to bounce back. The wood comes out 16 at a time, and then it starts to bounce back. Pretty slick. So we've managed to keep 16 wooden planks and 32 cobblestone in this inventory. And the items bounced back into this inventory once it was done moving. Pretty cool. You can see here they're all just kind of ready to move on. Now, if I were to take some of this cobble out for whatever reason, it would go ahead and feed it again. Again, it's pulling out 32 items at a time, and then it's going to feed right back in because this chest is allowed to store its cobblestone. So basically what happens is the cobble comes out, and it says I need to go to the highest priority that needs cobble, this guy, priority 1. And then once this thing fills up, it says, no, I don't need any more. So it bounces back to the next highest priority, which is this guy, priority 0, allowing any amount of cobble to go in. Pretty awesome. And I can do the same thing down here. If I want, I can put, let's just say 8 wooden planks in. It's going to go ahead and pull 8 wooden planks as soon as I give it a priority number. Let's make this guy priority 1 as well. Ooh, pretty spiffy. Now I'm going to actually give this guy priority 2 status, okay? Now let's watch what happens. I'm going to go ahead and pull all the wooden planks out of here, okay? So it has no more wooden planks in this chest to pull from. What happens when I take the 8 wooden planks out of this chest? Well, this guy's priority 2. It's a higher priority than this guy, priority 1. He's got wood in here. So what would you expect to happen? Well, if I take these guys out, it's actually going to feed the wood out of this chest and fill this guy up. Now everything's routing its way back. I guess there was just another piece of wood hanging out in here somewhere. There it goes. It's all bouncing back to where it belongs. Pretty neat. If I take another 8 out, it'll go ahead and pull the wood out of this guy. Notice there's no more wood in there at the moment. Once this guy is satisfied, he's going to send all the other wood back here. Pretty cool. So you can see that the higher priority numbers will do their thing. Now if I bump this guy up to priority 3, he's going to go ahead and steal the wood out of this guy, because priority 3 is higher than priority 2. Okay? Pretty cool. You should also note the managers are emitting a redstone signal once they've been properly satisfied. So, you give your manager what it wants, it's going to go ahead and emit a redstone signal. So if I tell this guy, just keep 1 cobblestone in here, and I get myself some red alloy wire, we'll do that. And I'll make this guy priority 1. Doesn't really matter. It should pull cobblestone out, get it satisfied, and then it's emitting a redstone signal as soon as it has what it needs. If I pull the cobblestone out, it's no longer satisfied, so no more redstone signal. Pretty cool. So now I'm clearing the managers here, and they're going to spit all their items out, because again, if this manager is empty, it's not going to allow any items inside the chest. Haha. What I'm going to do now is show you guys one more feature. You can check this out if you want. You should have noticed that there's a little color code down here. So let's go ahead and make this guy color code orange. And I'm going to make this guy down here color code orange. And I'm going to make these guys color code, I don't know, light blue. Sweet. So what happens if I set this guy down here to need, I don't know, half a stack of cobble? 34 cobble. Sounds like a good number. Okay, he's going to go ahead and get the cobble that he needs, and they're going to be painted orange, indicating that they're going down to the orange path. Okay, but what happens if I tell the light blue guy I want 62 cobble stored in the inventory? Note that nothing's happening, even though this is a higher priority, and it's got plenty of cobble down here to send. Nothing is happening. That's because by color coding your managers, you can basically make like almost a virtual private network where only managers of the same color can exchange with each other. So you don't need to paint your tubes in order to use the color feature. You simply set the color codes, and only orange managers will exchange with each other, and only blue managers will exchange with each other. Pretty cool. Now, of course, you can actually set this guy to not have a color, and then he'll be able to feed any color in the system that needs it. So if it doesn't have a color, it'll feed anybody, but if it does have a color, then it'll only feed like colors. So now I've gone and made that guy orange, and if I pull this thing out of here, you can see this manager is no longer satisfied. There was a little bit of back stuff in there, so it looks like 2 cobble, didn't know where to go. But yep, it's no longer pulling out because this is orange and this is blue. Now if I went ahead and told this guy that he's priority 1 and put a stack of cobble in the blue chest, they will share because they're both blue managers, so they'll share with each other. Pretty neat, huh? Why did this go down this path into this chest? Because this guy was not set to accept any amount of cobblestone. So as soon as I put cobble in here, it spit it out, said you're not allowed to have cobble in this chest. It put what was needed inside this manager, and then the rest went down to the end path right into this guy. And that about covers all the cool features of the manager. They're really impressive blocks. You can use them to do all kinds of cool stuff and keep certain amounts of items in certain chests. If you want, you can build a sorting system with managers where you have every chest on your sorting system be a manager, or you can make them, part of a production line. There's pretty much no end to what you can do with managers. They're really pretty cool. Now that's the first of the Tech 3 sorting machines. The other Tech 3 sorting machine is called the Sortron. This guy is a very complicated device, and it's not something I'm going to cover in this video. I'm actually going to create a whole separate video dedicated to just this block. As you can see, it requires some ribbon cable, which is a really good indication that this block connects up to a computer. It's one of the very first computer-controlled blocks, aside from the I/O expander and the other things that allow you to modify, your redstone signals and wires. The Sortron is a computer-controlled sorter. It's an extremely powerful block, but it does require a good amount of forth programming, and I'm going to go over that in a separate video. Basically, Elaram writes her mod for 2 types of people. The people who like to, just build stuff simply like this, and then, that's probably good for the manager. People who just like to build stuff in the world and do things pretty basically. But then there's some gamers who are really hardcore and want to do like really complicated and crazy things. That's where the Sortron comes in. Really cool device, but again requires forth programming, so it's going to be a totally separate video dedicated to how to use the Sortron. So that's pretty awesome. And with that, I feel like it's a pretty good wrapping up point for the first part of the Red Power 2 pre-release 6 Spotlight. Like I said, there's going to be a second part coming just as soon as I can get it recorded, because there's a few other changes that I haven't been able to touch on in this video. I'm also going to have another part of the video, Spotlight, which is going to be dedicated to just the Sortron. So there'll be a whole video for just the Sortron, and another one for a couple more features that I didn't touch on in this video. So this is Direwolf20 signing off on the Red Power 2 pre-release 6 Spotlight. Hope you guys enjoyed checking it out. Like I said, I think it was pretty much worth the wait to get this mod. It's really awesome, and the changes and additions here are just really pretty cool. So Direwolf20 signing off. Take it easy.